Now that we've looked at some of the basic features of Sass, let's look at some of the more advanced features. In this exercise, we're going to be looking at mixins with arguments. Now we've already looked at mixins, and you've seen that they can be very powerful to help streamline your coding process. But wait till you see what you can achieve by using arguments. My page so far looks like this, so I've just stripped out some of the formatting that we had for the sign styles. Here's our HTML, you're already familiar with this. And then for my Sass file, I'm going to go ahead and show you what I've created so far. I've gone ahead and in the header and sign rule that we've already created, I've stripped out the options that we created for border, border radius, the background color, and the box shadow. I've actually taken all of those declarations and I've moved them to a new mixin. So we already talked about how we created mixins earlier. I went ahead and used the @ symbol, @mixin, and then I gave this mixin a name. We're calling it sign style. And then in the parentheses, I went ahead and I passed on some variable names. The variable names are going to correspond with different areas that I want to allow the developer to code in different settings. And you can see this is going to give us a lot of flexibility and allow us to create our signs very quickly and easily, but give them all different looks and feels. So I've declared the border, I've said solid, and then I'm using the variable of width, and I'm saying that the color is going to be white. Border radius, and I'm saying that the border radius value is going to be a variable. This means the user is going to have to input this information. I'm doing the same for background color, and here on the box shadow, this is the shadow that the box is generating. I've used the same color value in our original exercise, so I've just replaced that with a box shadow color variable so that the user can then plug in different colors. Let's look at what this looks like when we implement it into our code. I'll start off by modifying the header element. In order to use the mixin, I'm going to go ahead and use the @include, and then I'll say the mixin name. In this exercise, our mixin name is sign style, and I'm going to open parentheses. Within the parentheses, I'm going to pass on the values for these various variables that I've defined. So for the width of the border, for this one, we're just going to say it's going to have a thin border, 4 pixels. For the border radius, let's give it a border radius of 10 pixels. Then for the background color, let's set the background color on this sign to be black. And then for the box shadow color, let's declare a bright lime green. And that's all I have to define. If I save this and we go back into our browser and we refresh our browser page, you can see that the top sign is now formatted with a black background color. It has this limey green glow. The width is 4 pixels and the border radius is only 10. Let's make some modifications to the other two signs that we have. I'm going to do the same thing for sun using @include and specifying my sign style mixin. And then within the parentheses, I'm going to pass on some other values. So this time we'll make the width much wider. We'll make the border radius much greater. We'll set the background color to be our dark red color, and I'll set the box shadow color to be an orange color. Let's save, and if we go preview in the browser, you can see that the sunshine sign now looks quite a bit different as well. So I'm using the exact same mixin, but with the flexibility of arguments, I'm able to modify this considerably. Let's do one more on the moonbeam sign. So again, I'm going to say @include, and then I'll have the name of my mixin. In this case, it's sign style. And this time, I just want to show you what happens if I don't pass on any of the arguments. If we go ahead and refresh, you can see that I'm going to get errors. It's expecting that I pass on some arguments. Now there is one way that you can work around this. You can actually set about specifying default arguments so that if the user doesn't specify arguments, your web page doesn't break. And this can be really helpful when you want to have a default look, but still allow the developer the flexibility of changing some of the styles if they need to. In order to incorporate a default value, we'll go into our original mixin, and I'm going to go ahead and after each variable, I'm going to say colon, and then I'm going to specify a value. So for the width, let's use a default value of 5 pixels. For the border radius, let's set it to a default value of 20 pixels. For the background color, let's set it to a default color of a dark teal. And for the box shadow color, let's set the box shadow color to a hot pink. I'll save my page and notice that I haven't changed anything inside of the moon declaration. We'll refresh, and now you can see that the moon sign takes on the default values that we specified. The other two, because we passed on the arguments that we wanted to, they're going to update with their own unique settings. This is an excellent way that you can use Sass to define default values and still have the ability to augment those values and make unique versions of those different elements. In this way, you can really customize the way in which mixins work, and this is really cool because instead of having to define mixins that have fixed properties, you can define mixins whose properties are set, but whose values can change over time or depending on where you're using them in your project.